Good morning, everyone. I hope you're well. It's Rabbi Akiva Males, and I'm here to share a Dvar Torah with you for Parshas Behar-Bechukosai. I want to start by telling you something about a Jew that I don't know that anyone has heard of before. This was a man whose name was Stanley Lieber. Stanley Lieber passed away just shy of 96 years old in November of 2018. Now, while I don't think anyone recognizes the name Stanley Lieber, I do think just about everyone will recognize his alter ego. The name that he used, his pen name for all of his creative writing, was Stan Lee. Stan Lee was the writer of and creator of so many of the comic book personalities, heroes, you may say, superheroes, that many of us who grew up here in the United States knew and loved. Perhaps none more famous than Spider-Man. Stan Lee was born Jewish. He was born to his Jewish parents, I should say. He was Jewish. He was born to his Romanian Jewish immigrant parents. And he passed away, as I said, in 2018. Why am I bringing up Stan Lee? There's a quote that is attributed in one of the early Spider-Man comics, which became very synonymous with Spider-Man. It became, even in some circles, it's known as the Peter Parker principle. And what is this principle? The line is, with great power comes great responsibility. And that's what apparently his Uncle Ben told him before he was killed. With great power comes great responsibility. And that's it's a very good quote. It's a good principle, and it's something that everybody should take to heart. What made me think of that this week is a Dvar Torah that I want to share with you. I saw an amazing interpretation to a pasuk in this week's Parsha by the Shalah. Just a brief biography. Who was the Shalah? The Shalah is an acronym for Shnei Luchos Habris. The Sefer Shnei Luchos Habris was written by the great Rabbi Yeshayahu Horowitz. Rabbi Yeshayahu Horowitz was born in 1555 in Prague and passed away in Israel, in Tzfat, in 1630. He's buried in Tveria. The last time Leila and I were in Israel several years ago, we visited Tveria and we went to daven at the kever of the Shalah, of Rabbi Yeshayahu Horowitz. Rabbi Yeshayahu Horowitz, aside from holding positions in Prague and in Germany, he moved to Israel in 1621, first lived in Yerushalayim, then moved to Tzfat, where he served as a Rav, passing away in 1630. The Shalah has a beautiful interpretation of a pasuk in this week's Parsha that I want to share with you. First, put it in context. Much of Parshas Behar-Bechukosai deals with what we call the tochacha, those harsh words of rebuke or warning, you might say, that Moshe Rabbeinu issues to Bnei Yisrael. He makes it abundantly clear that if we're going to enter into the land of Israel, and we're going to live and thrive there, it would only take place if Bnei Yisrael as a whole, as a nation, remained absolutely committed to observance of Torah and mitzvos. It was not just going to be left for a select few and pockets of Jews within the land of Israel. Rather, this was the responsibility of all Klal Yisrael. The entire Jewish people had to remain loyal to the Torah and mitzvos. And Moshe, to drive this lesson home, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu to share with Bnei Yisrael what would happen to us. Frightening warnings of what would happen to us, all sorts of doom, gloom, and destruction if we strayed from that path of Torah and mitzvos. And that's what much of Parshas Behar-Bechukosai revolves around, the tochacha. Harsh reading. Now, towards the end of the tochacha, there's a pasuk which should jump out at us, but prior to seeing the Shalah, I never really took note of it before. And here's the pasuk. All the way towards the end of the tochacha, we read the following pasuk. V'zacharti es brisi Yaakov es brisi Yitzchak v'af es brisi Avraham eskor v'ha'aretz eskor. Hashem says that after showering all forms of destruction and galus, exile, dispersion upon Bnei Yisrael, I will remember the covenant that I entered into with your great ancestors, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And then the pasuk concludes by saying, v'ha'aretz eskor. I will also remember Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. And then there's several more psukim of tochacha, more doom and gloom warnings of coming destruction if we do not remain loyal to the Torah and mitzvos. So the Shalah raises a fantastic question and offers a very beautiful explanation. I want to share it with you in the inside. It's not long. Let me read it with you. We'll learn it together. The Shalah writes, V'zacharti es brisi Yaakov. He's going on this pasuk that seems these comforting words that God says he's going to remember the covenant he entered into with our ancestors. Kasha, I've got a big question. Ze ha-pasuk hu shel nechama. This is a pasuk, this is a verse containing words of comfort. V'adayin lo gamara klalos. But we're not finished yet. There's still several more psukim talking about the curses and the punishments that we would receive if we don't remain loyal to Torah mitzvahs. Why is Hashem interrupting this whole chain of warnings, of dire warnings, with words of nechama, words of comfort, when he's not yet done telling us all the bad things we can expect? This seems out of sequence. This doesn't seem right. So the Shalosh says as follows, V'kibalti, here's the tradition I have. He doesn't tell you where he received this from, but he's telling you this is not a novel idea I'm coming up with. This is what I was taught by my teachers. This is the tradition I have received. He doesn't name the teachers. Again, he was born in Prague. We don't know how far back this goes. Was it from the Maharal of Prague? Was it someone earlier? We just don't know. But he tells us this is the tradition I received. We're reading this pasuk wrong. This verse is not words of comfort. This verse is part of Hashem's words of warning. It's part of us, Bnei Yisrael, being chastised. Ki eino dome rasha ben rasha hachote l'rasha ben tzaddik. We all know there's an incredible difference between two people may commit the same sin, but we have different expectations of them. One may be a rasha ben rasha, an evildoer, the son of evildoers. What can we expect from this person? He grew up in such a negative home. But the other person might be a rasha ben tzaddik, an evildoer who grew up with wonderful parents, who are observant, who are devout, who are pious. There's different expectations for the two of them. So again, ki'eno dome rasha ben rasha achote, l'rasha ben tzaddik. There's no comparison between the evildoer, the son of an evildoer who sins, and an evildoer, the son of a righteous person who sins. Rasha ben tzaddik onsho meruba. The evildoer who grew up in a good home, that person will be judged more severely. Shira aviv misnahik b'chasidus. He saw his father, he saw his parents acting and living lives of such piety. And this person made a conscious choice to abandon the ways, to abandon the wonderful opportunities, the head start that he or she had been given. So that person, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will hold to accountable for more. Similarly, a person who grew up in a degenerate society will be held to a completely different standard from one who grew up in an atmosphere, in an environment that was infused with Torah. Al Zeh Amar. Therefore, this is what the pasuk is saying. Hashem is explaining to us, you know why I'm judging you, Bnei Yisrael, so harshly? You're right. You may have done nothing worse than what the rest of the pagan nations of the world were doing. But I've got higher expectations for you. I'm going to remember all of these things, and I'm going to hold it against you. You are all descendants. You come from the stock of such holy ancestors. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Look who your Zetas were. Look who your Babis were. You're coming from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. And this is the behavior that you're up to? The Gam Aretz says, I will also remember the land of Israel. Kinasati l'charetz Yisrael, she'avira de'eretz Yisrael machkim. I will remember that. Where did you all start? Where did Bnei Yisrael get their beginnings? In the land of Israel. Such a beautiful atmosphere that's filled with Kedusha, that makes all of its inhabitants more receptive for living lives of sanctity and lives of holiness. And this is what you're up to? No, I know there's plenty of pagan tribes running around in Europe and other parts of the world who are doing all sorts of degenerate acts and activities, and they're living lives that are filled with filth. But you're in Eretz Yisrael, and you're coming from such wonderful ancestors. This is what you're up to. I expect more from you. So what Stan Lee was saying was, with great power comes great responsibility. What the Shalah seems to be telling us is the way his Kabbalah, his tradition for learning this pasuk is, with great privilege comes great responsibility. And every single member of Bnei Yisrael, we have privilege. We know that we were given a head start. Look what's in our DNA. Look what's in the fibers of our being. We come from royalty. We come from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah. That's in our DNA. It's in the fiber of our being. And look where we all began, Bnei Yisrael. Even if we're not living there now, we're in Chutz La'aretz, and we're living in the diaspora. But part and parcel of our genetic makeup, it was fused in Eretz Yisrael. We came to be in the land of Israel, and that's where we got our beginnings. So therefore, it's eternally, it'll always be in our genetic code. As a result of that, more is expected of us. And that's what the Shalah says, his tradition of understanding these psukim. That's his tradition of understanding these psukim. And I think this is a beautiful shot. It explains, it answers the Shalah's question. What is a verse of Nechama, of comfort, doing here? It's not a verse of Nechama. It's Hashem explaining why we're being held to a higher standard. But I think we could get something else out of this pasuk as well. Yes, the Shalah is using this to explain why we're being punished and we're being held accountable to a much higher degree than other nations of the world were. But what we should get out of this is as follows. We should learn from the Shalah, and we should learn from the tradition he had received from his Rabbeim and his teachers, is that each and every one of us, as members of Bnei Yisrael, we have a head start. Look what's in our genetic makeup. We are all coming from tremendous yichus. Each and every one of us have wonderful pedigree. We're coming from the genetic stock of Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah. We are B'nai Melachim. We are, each and every one of us is a prince and a princess. We are descendants of royalty. That can't be taken away from us. That's in our DNA. And you know what else is in our DNA? That we were forged, that we got our start in Eretz Yisrael, Navira Eretz Yisrael Machkim. The very fact that our genetic sequence came to be in the land of Israel infused us with a receptivity to Kedusha, for sanctity and for holiness. That's who we are. More is expected of us, but that means we have the potential for greatness, each and every one of us. And all of us, we find challenges in life. We find points where we have to make choices, make decisions. What are we going to do at various junctures? What should enable us to make the proper choice and the proper decision, to remain committed to Torah and committed to mitzvos, is to tap into who we are, what's at our very core. The fact that we are B'nai Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, that we got our start in Eretz Yisrael. That gives us privilege, that gives us a head start, and that should enable us, if we tap into it and we think, when we pause, that should enable us to make the right choices and to live lives that are filled with Kedusha, filled with sanctity, and we're doing our best to be sanctifying God's name here in this world, making a Kiddush Hashem, and living lives that were committed to Torah and mitzvahs. So as we read Parshas Behar-Bechukosai this week, and sadly we won't be reading it in Shul, but the reason we're home again is because we're following our halachic imperative, which is Shmartem Ola Nafsho Seichem. We're still living in the midst of a pandemic. Thank God things seem to be improving to some degree or another. We're still trying to analyze all that data, but nonetheless, we're still at the point where it's not safe yet to have our minyanim in shul, and therefore we're home and we'll be reading this parsha. And as we get to this pasuk of the Zacharti es Brisi Yaakov, V'afes Brisi Yitzchak, V'afes Brisi Avram Eskor, V'aretz Eskor, we read that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to remember where we all come from. He's going to remember the fact that there was a covenant made with Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and also the fact that we got our beginnings in Eretz Yisrael. It's not just Hashem who should be remembering that. All of us, each and every one of us should remember that. And if we remember that, if we don't lose sight of that, that can give us the chizuk, that can give us the support that we need when we're faced with great challenges. God willing, each and every one of us should summon the strength to make the right choices and to remain loyal to the Torah and to the mitzvahs. With that, I wish each and every one of you a good Shabbos, a healthy Shabbos. Please stay safe and please stay well. And may Hashem answer all of our tefillos. May this pandemic come to a rapid end. May nobody else succumb to this illness. May nobody else become ill. And may HaKadosh Baruch Hu provide a refuah shalema to all those who are suffering and provide nechama, his comfort, and chizuk, his support to all those who have been affected by this. Have a good Shabbos, everyone.